Earth breaks ties with the Galaxy Council and left the universe in panic part. The sky over Geneva was gray that morning, heavy with clouds that refused to break. Inside the domed chamber of the Unified Planetary Assembly, the air hummed with tension. Delegates from every continent sat in curved rows, their faces lit by soft blue panels built into the desks. Outside, millions watched on public screens, holding their breath. Today was the day Earth would decide its fate among the stars. For over 60 years, humanity had been part of the Galaxy Council, a vast alliance of 212 spacefaring civilizations that governed trade, diplomacy, and defense across the spiral arm. At first, membership had seemed like a dream come true. Earth gained access to faster-than-light travel, medical breakthroughs, and energy technologies that ended poverty and war. But over time, the price of that membership grew heavier. The Council demanded more control over Earth's borders, its military, even its cultural exports. They called it harmonization. Many on Earth called it surrender. Daniel Brooks stood at the central podium, his hands resting lightly on the smooth surface. He was only 34, young for a lead delegate, but his voice carried the weight of years. He wore a simple dark suit, no medals, no insignia, just the small silver pin of Earth's new sovereignty movement. "We joined the Council believing in unity," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But unity should not mean silence. It should not mean giving up who we are." He paused, glancing at the massive window behind him, where the Jura Mountains stood like silent witnesses. "Last month, the Council ordered us to shut down our lunar defense grid because it disturbed regional balance. That grid protects over 2 million people living on the moon. Would they ask the Zentauri to disarm their orbital cannons? Would they tell the Krellians to stop mining their own asteroids?" A murmur rose through the chamber. Some delegates nodded. Others frowned, arms crossed. Near the front, Lila Grant shifted in her seat. She was Earth's official liaison to the Galaxy Council. Elegant in a deep green dress, her expression unreadable. She had spent 15 years building bridges between Earth and the Council. To her, Daniel's words sounded like the beginning of a collapse. "The Council has kept peace for generations," she said, when it was her turn to speak. She rose slowly, her voice measured, practiced. "Without them, we risk chaos. Our economy depends on galactic trade. Our hospitals rely on Krellian biogels. Our power grids use Zentauri fusion cores. If we walk away today, we do not just lose allies, we lose stability." She looked around, meeting the eyes of the delegates. "Is pride worth starvation? Is independence worth isolation?" For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Daniel stepped forward again. "No one is saying we burn every bridge," he replied, "but we must be allowed to stand on our own terms. The Council treats us like children who must be guided, not partners who must be respected. They vetoed our proposal to explore the Proxima ruins. Because human curiosity is unpredictable, they blocked our request to share Earth's climate restoration tech with non-member worlds because it disrupts market equilibrium." He leaned slightly on the podium. "We are not asking for war. We are asking for dignity." The debate went on for hours. Arguments flew about resource quotas, data-sharing laws, and the recent incident near Jupiter, where a Council patrol ship had boarded an Earth freighter without warning. Tempers flared. Old alliances strained. But beneath it all, a quiet shift was happening. More and more delegates were realizing that Earth had grown strong, not just in technology but in spirit. Finally, the vote was called. Each delegate placed their hand on a biometric pad. A soft chime sounded with every decision. The results appeared on the central screen in real time. The numbers climbed, 58% in favor of severing ties, then 63%, then 71%. When the final count locked in at 82%, a hush fell over the chamber. Even Lila Grant looked stunned. President Alan Ruiz, seated in the highest row, stood slowly. He was a tall man with silver hair and tired eyes, but his voice was clear. "Effective immediately," he announced. "Earth withdraws from the Galaxy Council. All diplomatic channels are closed. All joint operations are terminated. Our quantum relay network will be deactivated within the hour." Gasps echoed through the room. Outside crowds erupted, some in cheers, others in tears. Within minutes, orders went out across the solar system. On the moon, Marcus Lee, a communications engineer at Tycho Haven, received the directive on his private channel. He stared at the message for a long moment, then walked to the main control panel. With a deep breath, he flipped the master switch. One by one, the quantum relays powering Earth's interstellar comms winked out. The stars went silent. On Mars, in a research dome buried beneath red dust, Nora Ellis watched her monitors go dark. No more data streams from Council science hubs. No more shared astronomical alerts. Just static. She felt a strange mix of fear and freedom. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. In New Delhi, children stopped playing to watch the announcement on street screens. In Buenos Aires, factory workers paused their shifts. In Nairobi, students gathered in quiet circles, wondering what tomorrow would bring. The Galaxy Council reacted within the hour. Emergency signals flooded the last open channels, demanding explanation, pleading for reconsideration. But Earth did not reply. Its orbital defense platforms powered up. Its borders closed. Its voice fell silent. Across the galaxy, panic began to stir. Trade ships heading for Earth rerouted in confusion. Council envoys scrambled to draft responses. On Varel Prime, a planet that relied on Earth-made nanofilters for clean water, officials declared a state of emergency. No one knew what Earth would do next. But one thing was certain. The age of quiet cooperation was over. Humanity had made its choice, and the universe, for the first time in centuries, felt the weight of Earth's absence. In Geneva, as rain finally began to fall, Daniel Brooks stepped out of the assembly building. He looked up at the cloudy sky, not at the stars beyond, but at the world beneath them. "We're on our own now," he whispered, and for the first time in a long time that felt like hope. Earth breaks ties with the Galaxy Council and left the universe in panic. Part 2 news of Earth's withdrawal spread faster than any ship could fly. Within hours, every major system in the galaxy knew that Seoul had gone dark. The Galaxy Council's emergency broadcast channels lit up with frantic messages, but Earth sent nothing back. No explanations, no warnings, just silence. On Varel Prime, a world of glass towers and floating cities, the panic started at dawn. The planet's entire water purification system depended on Earth-made nanofilters, tiny machines that broke down toxins at the molecular level. Without regular updates from Earth's data hubs, the filters began to degrade. By midday, hospitals were overwhelmed with patients suffering from waterborne sickness. Council supply ships were days away, and no one knew if Earth would even allow them near the Sol system anymore. In the Kesson Belt, a chain of asteroid colonies known for their rare metal refineries, workers watched their screens go blank. Earth had been their biggest buyer of refined iridium, used in warp core stabilizers. Now, with no contracts and no communication, entire mining operations shut down. Families packed what they could and boarded the few outbound shuttles, hoping to find work elsewhere. The Galaxy Council called an emergency session on its central station, a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting the gas giant Xylos. Delegates from dozens of species argued in hushed, urgent tones. Some demanded military action, others pleaded for patience, but all of them shared the same fear. Earth was not just leaving, they were vanishing. Back in the Sol system, Earth's silence was not empty. It was deliberate. On the moon, inside the Tycho Haven colony, Marcus Lee stood in the main comms chamber. The room was cold now. The usual hum of quantum relays replaced by an eerie quiet. He ran a hand over the darkened console, remembering the first time he'd heard a voice from Alpha Centauri through this very system. Now those voices were gone. He wasn't sad. He was focused. His new orders were clear. Monitor all inbound signals, but do not respond. Track every ship that approached the lunar perimeter. Report anything unusual. Earth was watching even if it wasn't speaking. Farther out, near the orbit of Mars, the deep space sensor net flickered to life. Hidden behind dust clouds and old satellite debris, these new arrays had been installed in secret over the past 3 years. They weren't meant for trade or diplomacy. They were meant for defense. On the red planet itself, in a research dome half buried in rust-colored sand, Nora Ellis stared at her screen. She was a geophysicist, not a soldier, but what she was seeing made her heart race. Deep beneath Earth's crust, in zones long thought dormant, energy readings were spiking, not randomly, rhythmically, like something was waking up. She tried to contact her team in Geneva, but the secure channels were down. All she could do was log the data and wait. Meanwhile, on Earth, life went on, but differently. Cities ran on closed-loop power grids. Food came from vertical farms and ocean harvesters. Schools taught new lessons about self-reliance. People looked up at the night sky not with wonder, but with quiet resolve. The Galaxy Council tried everything. They sent diplomatic drones painted with peace symbols. They broadcast old Earth music, hoping to stir nostalgia. They even released archived messages from human ancestors who had once begged for council membership. Nothing worked. Earth remained silent. Then came the first test. The Xanthari hegemony, a proud and militaristic species from the Outer Rim, had never trusted humans. To them, Earth's sudden withdrawal was a sign of weakness or a trap. Their high command ordered a reconnaissance fleet to approach the edge of the Sol system. Just to observe, they claimed. 3 sleek warships, each shaped like a curved blade, crossed the official boundary near the Oort cloud. They moved slowly, scanning, probing. Earth did not fire. It did not warn. Instead, as the lead Xanthari cruiser passed the orbit of Neptune, it simply disappeared. One moment it was transmitting clear video of icy dwarf planets. The next its signal cut out. No explosion, no debris, just static. The 2 escort ships pulled back immediately, their commanders shouting into comms that went unanswered. When they returned to Xanthari space, their report sent shockwaves through the council. Sensors showed no weapons fire, no spatial anomalies. It was as if the ship had been erased. Rumors began to spread. Some said Earth had built a new kind of shield. Others whispered about time distortion fields or black hole projectors. A few even claimed humans had made a deal with something older than the council itself. No one knew the truth, but everyone knew one thing: Earth was not helpless. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Ben Carter wiped frost from his visor as he stepped out of his rover. He worked for the Outer Worlds Research Group, studying cryovolcanoes and methane lakes. But lately, his real work had taken a strange turn. Buried beneath a layer of ice near the Krakenmare Sea, his team had found ruins. Not human, not Xanthari, not anything in the Council's database. The structures were smooth, organic-looking, covered in symbols that pulsed faintly when touched. Carbon dating placed them over 50,000 years old, long before humans walked upright. Ben had sent his findings to Earth months ago. He never got a reply, but now after the withdrawal he understood. Earth already knew. Back on Earth, President Alan Ruiz stood alone in the Situation Room beneath Geneva. Maps of the solar system glowed on the walls. Red dots marked every foreign vessel that had tried to approach. Green lines showed Earth's hidden defenses activating in sequence. He thought about his daughter Elena, who commanded the new deep-range vessel, Odyssey 1. She was training in lunar orbit, preparing for a mission no one outside Earth's inner circle knew about. "We're not hiding," he said softly, though no one was there to hear. "We're becoming." Across the galaxy, fear turned to confusion, then to awe. Trade routes shifted. Old enemies eyed each other with suspicion. The Council's authority, once unquestioned, now felt fragile. And in the quiet of the Sol system, Earth waited, not in fear, not in anger, but in readiness. The stars still shone. But now, they watched Earth as much as Earth watched them. Earth breaks ties with the Galaxy Council and left the universe in panic. Part 3. The galaxy did not calm down after Earth went silent. Instead, it cracked open like thin ice under too much weight. The Galaxy Council, once seen as the unshakable heart of interstellar order, now looked confused and slow. Member worlds began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to send a peace envoy to Earth. Others pushed for a full blockade. A few even suggested that Earth should be declared a rogue system and treated as a threat to galactic stability. The Xanthari hegemony, still shaken by the loss of their scout ship near Neptune, refused to speak to the Council for weeks. When they finally did, their message was short. "Do not ask us to test Sol again." That single sentence sent ripples through every military command in known space. If the Xanthari, proud, battle-hardened, and never known for fear, were backing down, then Earth was not bluffing. On Varel Prime, the water crisis worsened. Hospitals overflowed. Riots broke out in the lower districts. The planetary governor begged the Council for emergency aid, but Council supply ships were being rerouted to defend key outposts, not deliver filters. People began to whisper that Earth had not just left the galaxy, they had broken it. Back in the Sol system, Earth moved like a shadow. No grand announcements, no threats, just quiet, steady action. Beneath the ice of Antarctica, deep inside a facility carved into the bedrock, Project Horizon hummed to life. It had been built in secret over 2 decades, funded by redirected trade surpluses and hidden behind fake climate research grants. Its purpose was not war. It was something far stranger. Scientists in white coats moved through clean corridors, monitoring screens that showed impossible things. Ripples in the fabric of space itself, controlled and shaped like waves in a pond. At the center of the chamber stood a ring of dark metal, 10 meters wide, humming with a low, steady tone. This was the core of Horizon, a vacuum decay stabilizer. In simple terms, it could bend local space-time without tearing it apart. It was the key to a new kind of travel, faster, safer, and completely outside the Council's known physics. No one outside the project knew it existed. Not even most of Earth's leaders had seen it. But President Alan Ruiz had approved its final activation the night Earth cut ties. Now it was ready. On the moon, Marcus Lee received new orders. He was no longer just monitoring signals. He was helping calibrate the lunar array to sync with Horizon's energy pulses. The moon, it turned out, was not just a colony. It was part of Earth's new navigation system. Meanwhile, on Mars, Nora Ellis finally got a reply. Not through official channels, but through a hidden data burst sent on an old emergency frequency. The message was short. Confirm readings. Prepare for Phase 2. She didn't know who sent it, but she knew what it meant. The energy surges beneath Earth's crust were not random. They were signals, and they were getting stronger. In orbit around Earth, the Odyssey 1 floated in darkness. It was unlike any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Sleek, black and smooth with no visible weapons or docking ports. Its hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Inside, Captain Elena Ruiz ran final diagnostics. Her crew of 12, scientists, engineers, and 1 linguist, sat in quiet focus. They knew they might not return. But they also knew they had to go. The mission was simple. Leave the Sol system, travel beyond the Council's mapped space, and find the source of the signals Earth had been receiving for years. Signals that matched the symbols found on Titan. But before they could launch, one last test had to be done. The Council, desperate for answers, sent a final probe. This one was unarmed, painted white, and carried a message of peace in over 300 languages, including ancient human tongues like Latin and Sanskrit. It drifted toward the orbit of Jupiter, broadcasting gently, like a lost child calling home. Earth did not destroy it. Instead, as the probe crossed the threshold of the asteroid belt, something strange happened. The probe's cameras showed the stars ahead of it, shifting. Not moving, but rearranging as if space itself had folded for a moment. Then the probe vanished from all sensors. Not destroyed. Not jammed, gone. Hours later, it reappeared right outside the Council's central station. It was intact. Its message still played. But its internal clock showed it had been gone for only 3 seconds, even though light itself would have taken hours to make the trip. The Council scientists were stunned. They ran every test, checked every system. The probe had not been teleported. It had taken a shortcut through folded space, a path no known species could create or control. And only one civilization had the motive, the silence and the sudden capability to do such a thing. Earth. Panic turned to awe. Awe turned to fear of a different kind, not fear of attack, but fear of being left behind. Younger species, long tired of the Council's rigid rules, began to ask questions. Why should Earth obey laws it didn't help write? Why should any world give up its future for the sake of balance? On the ocean world of Polaris, students tore down Council posters and painted murals of Earth's blue planet rising over alien horizons. On the desert moon of Kor, miners refused to load shipments bound for Council warships. Even some Council envoys began to wonder if humanity had seen something they had missed, a truth hidden in the silence between stars. Back on Earth, no celebrations were held. No speeches were made. People simply went about their work, knowing that every action now carried weight far beyond their world. President Ruiz stood on a balcony in Geneva, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and red. He thought of his daughter out there in the black, ready to sail into the unknown. He thought of the ruins on Titan, the pulses under the ice, the quiet hum of Horizon deep below. Humanity was not running away. It was stepping forward, and the galaxy, for the first time, felt small. Earth breaks ties with the Galaxy Council and left the universe in panic. Part 4 months passed. Earth remained silent, but its absence spoke louder than any broadcast ever could. The Galaxy Council sent probe after probe toward the Sol system, each one vanishing near the edge of known space, only to reappear days later near distant outposts, unharmed, but changed. Their sensors showed strange energy echoes, like ripples from a stone dropped in a pond that shouldn't exist. No one could explain it. Then something new began. From deep within Earth's orbit, faint signals started leaking into the void. Not voice, not video, just pulses. Rhythmic, precise, and encoded in a mathematical language older than human writing. At first, the Council dismissed them as noise. But on the fringe world of Krellis Minor, a young scientist named Jorik caught one of the bursts while calibrating a deep space antenna. He ran it through every decoder in the Council database. Nothing matched. Frustrated, he tried something simple. He treated the pulses not as language but as coordinates and as instructions. When he layered them over star maps from 50,000 years ago, a pattern emerged. The signals weren't aimed at the Council. They were aimed at empty space beyond the galactic rim, toward a region long marked as unstable and unmapped. Jorik shared his findings with a few trusted friends. Within days, whispers spread through underground science circles. Earth wasn't just hiding, it was calling someone or something home. Back in the Sol system, life continued in quiet rhythm. Cities ran on clean fusion power. Farms grew food under artificial suns. Children learned history not just of Earth, but of the stars. And beneath Antarctica, Project Horizon pulsed stronger with each passing week. On Titan, Ben Carter stood in the frozen dark, his boots crunching on methane ice. He had returned to the ruins many times since Earth's withdrawal. Each visit revealed more. The walls weren't just covered in symbols, they responded to touch. When he placed his palm on a certain panel, faint blue lines lit up, forming shapes that looked like star charts, but not of any sky humans had ever seen. One night, during a rare solar calm, the entire chamber glowed. A low hum filled the air, and for 3 seconds Ben swore he saw figures in the shadows, tall, slender, gone before he could blink. He didn't tell anyone, not yet. But he knew. Earth hadn't discovered this place by accident. It had been waiting. Meanwhile, on Mars, Nora Ellis finally understood what the energy surges meant. They weren't coming from machines. They were coming from the planet itself, or rather from something buried deep in its core. Ancient, dormant, and now waking. She compared the readings to data from Titan and found a match. The same frequency, the same rhythm, Earth, Mars, Titan. They were all part of a network. A network built long before humans existed. The truth began to piece itself together. Humanity hadn't been invited into the galaxy by chance. They had been placed here, protected, watched. And now, after centuries of growth, they were being called to remember. The Galaxy Council, still reeling from confusion, received a shock they never expected. A delegation from the Varel Prime system announced they were suspending their council membership until Earth's status is clarified. Days later, the Kessin Belt colonies followed. Then a small but influential group of science worlds near the Orion Spur. The Council's unity was crumbling not from war, but from doubt. Why had Earth been allowed to develop so fast? Why did their biology match so many ancient ruins? Why did their myths speak of sky ancestors and starseeds? Questions no one had dared ask before now burned in every mind. On Earth, President Alan Ruiz met with a small group in a hidden chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains. No cameras, no records, just voices in the dark. "The time is close," said one of the scientists. "Horizon can hold the fold for 12 minutes. That's enough to reach the target zone." Ruiz nodded. "Is the Odyssey one ready?" "She's been ready," came the reply. "Elena says the crew is calm. They know what they're looking for." What they were looking for wasn't just answers. It was origin. For years, Earth's top researchers had studied fragments of alien tech found in deep ocean trenches and polar ice. All of it pointed to one thing. Humanity was not alone in its design. Their DNA carried markers that matched no known species, but it did match the energy signatures from the Titan ruins. They weren't just descendants of Earth. They were echoes of something older. Something that had seeded life across the galaxy and then vanished. And now Earth was reaching back. The final signal from Project Horizon went out at midnight, Geneva time. It wasn't a message. It was a key. A single pulse, shaped like a spiral sent into the void with perfect timing. Across the galaxy, ancient receivers, long thought to be dead rocks or natural formations, woke up. On dead moons, in asteroid cores, beneath desert sands on forgotten worlds, one by one they answered not with words, with light. From 1,000 points in space, soft glows appeared where none should be. The Council's astronomers scrambled to explain it. Some called it a cosmic event. Others said it was a trick of the sensors. But Jorik, watching from his small lab on Krellis Minor, knew better. "It's a path," he whispered. "They're lighting the way." Back on Earth, people looked up. Not in fear, but in wonder. The night sky seemed brighter, as if the stars themselves were leaning closer. In lunar orbit, Captain Elena Ruiz gave the final command. "Engage Horizon Link." The Odyssey 1 shuddered once, then vanished, not in a flash, but in a ripple, like a stone sinking into still water. And somewhere, far beyond the edge of the known galaxy, something waited, not to judge, not to conquer, but to welcome them home. Earth breaks ties with the Galaxy Council and left the universe in Panic Part 5. The Odyssey 1 did not travel through space as ships had for centuries. It did not burn fuel or ride warp currents. Instead, it slipped between folds of reality, guided by the pulse from Project Horizon and the ancient signals now lighting the dark. Inside the ship, time felt strange, stretched in some moments, compressed in others. Captain Elena Ruiz sat in the command chair, her eyes fixed on the view screen. Though there was nothing to see but soft, shifting light, her crew remained calm. They had trained for this, not for battle, not for first contact in the old sense, but for something deeper. Linguist Samira Khan reviewed the symbol sets from Titan one last time. Engineer Ben Carter, yes, the same Ben from the Ice Moon, monitored the ship's resonance with the path ahead. They were not explorers anymore. They were returners. After what felt like hours but might have been minutes, the light ahead cleared. The ship emerged into normal space, but nothing about this place was normal. Before them hung a structure so vast it bent the stars around it. It was not built, it was grown. Smooth curves of silver-blue material spiraled outward like the shell of a cosmic nautilus, glowing with a gentle inner warmth. No weapons, no docking bays, just open archways waiting. Elena took a slow breath. "Hail them," she said softly. Samira sent the signal, not in words, but in the same pulse pattern Earth had been broadcasting. A question wrapped in memory. For a long moment, silence. Then the structure responded, not with sound, but with feeling. A wave of calm understanding washed over the crew, as if the ship itself had been heard, seen, and known. A path of light opened in the structure's side, wide enough for the Odyssey 1 to enter. Inside, there was no gravity as they knew it. The ship floated gently into a vast chamber filled with floating orbs of light, each one humming with data, history, and life. Images formed in the air, galaxies being seeded, planets blooming with life, civilizations rising and falling. And in every one, a thread of human-like forms appeared, not as conquerors, but as children of a greater design. They had found the cradle. The beings who built this place were not there in body. They had moved on long ago, leaving behind only their legacy and their watchers. But their message was clear. Humanity was never meant to be ruled. They were meant to grow, to choose, and when ready, to remember. Elena stepped onto the inner platform, her boots touching a surface that felt like warm stone. Around her, the others followed. No fear, only awe. Back in the Sol system, Earth waited. President Alan Ruiz stood on the same balcony in Geneva, watching the sunrise. He did not know what his daughter had found, but he felt it in his bones. The weight that had pressed on humanity for generations, the feeling of being small, late, and unimportant, was gone. Across the planet, people sensed it too. In Tokyo, a child stopped crying and looked up at the sky. In Cairo, an old man smiled for the first time in weeks. In Rio, musicians played songs that no one had written but everyone seemed to know. The Galaxy Council, now fractured and uncertain, received one final transmission from Earth. It was not a threat, not a plea, just a simple message sent on every open frequency in every major language. We were never your subjects. We are your future. Then Earth went silent again, but this time the silence was different. It was not the silence of hiding. It was the silence of purpose. The Odyssey 1 stayed at the cradle for 3 days. In that time, the crew learned more than all of human history had ever recorded. They saw how life was scattered like seeds across the void, how each world was given a chance to find its own way. They learned that the Galaxy Council had once been like them, young, eager, and then fearful. Fear had made them control. Control had made them blind. When it was time to leave, the cradle gifted them one thing, a small crystal that pulsed with soft light. It held no weapons, no power source, no map. It held only truth. And truth, they realized, was the most powerful thing in the universe. The journey back was quicker. The path knew them now. When the Odyssey 1 reappeared near Mars, every sensor in the Sol system lit up. But Earth did not panic. It welcomed them home. News of their return spread fast, but Earth did not broadcast the full story. Some things were not meant for everyone at once. Instead, President Ruiz made a short announcement. "We have seen where we came from," he said. "Now we must decide where we go next." The Galaxy Council watched from afar, unsure what to do. Some wanted to attack. Others wanted to beg for forgiveness. But the truth was, Earth no longer needed their permission. New ships began to appear in Earth's orbit. Not warships, but vessels of exploration. Built with knowledge from the cradle, powered by Horizon's folded space, they were ready to sail beyond the old boundaries. This time, not as members of a council, but as guides. On Varel Prime, the water filters began working again, not because Earth sent parts, but because Varel scientists, inspired by Earth's courage, found their own solution. On Kesson Belt, miners started trading with independent worlds, building new networks outside council control. The panic that had gripped the galaxy slowly turned into something else. Hope. Humanity had not left the universe. It had awakened it, and as the first of Earth's new ships launched toward the stars, not to conquer, not to hide, but to share, the universe held its breath. Not in fear, but in wonder. For the first time in a long time, the future was not written by the powerful. It was written by those who dared to remember who they really were.